Naruto, God-level System Author, Blue Water God. Chapter 81 On the Battlefield. Danzo's words, like a magic sound, lingered in Hiruzen Sarutobi's ears for a long time and never dissipated. Power corrupts people's hearts, and he has been in Hokage's position for a long time, and Sarutobi Hizen doesn't want to be forced to abdicate in the future. No matter what happens to the future Sarutobi Hizen, the current Sarutobi Hipsa still values power very much. Okay. After a long time, Hizen Sarutobi nodded silently. And Kaienzu Tsunade, although he is your disciple, but enough. Tsunade is my disciple. I tolerated the Senju family, and I tolerated the Senju Roshu, but Tsunade couldn't. Sarutobi Hizen slammed the table. Zin, I hope Konoha is just Konoha, not Konoha of the Kaienzu family. This matter has not been discussed. Sarutobi Hizen was extremely firm, and he still couldn't do anything to assassinate his own disciple. Knowing that he couldn't convince Sarutobi Hizen, Danzo didn't mention it again, but he naturally had his own plans in mind. I heard that Tsunade's 3 disciples are all very powerful, and it's time to contribute to Konoha, Danzo said while looking at Sarutobi Hizen. This time, Sarutobi Hizen didn't speak. He was silent, apparently tacitly agreeing. The people of the 11 Uchiha family, don't send them to the battlefield until the critical moment. After leaving one last sentence, Danzo turned and left. This time, Hiruzen Sarutobi also agrees with Danzo. Unless necessary, Hiruzen Sarutobi really doesn't want to send the Uchiha clan to the battlefield. After a war, all clans will weaken, but only the Uchiha clan will become stronger with more battles. During the war, the chances of the Uchiha family's shakers being turned on are too high, so unless it is a real critical moment, Sarutobi Hizen will never send the Uchiha family to the battlefield. During the First Ninja World War, Kaienzu Tobirama never sent the Uchiha clan to the battlefield. It was not to take care of Uchiha, but because he was afraid that after the strength of the Uchiha clan soared, it would be unfavorable to the village. Kaienzu Tobirama has fought with the Uchiha clan since the Warring States period, and naturally knows Uchiha very well. But what Kaienzu Tobirama didn't expect was that Uchiha had nothing to do in the end, but the Kaienzu family, who are also called the 2 strongest families in the Warring States with Uchiha, became lonely instead. The next day, Hizen Sarutobi asked 2 advisors, Mito Kadam and Koharu, to temporarily manage Konoha, while Sarutobi Hizen began to gather ninjas. With the exception of the Uchiha family, all the ninjas from all the families gathered, and Sarutobi Hizen didn't have time to mobilize for a war. He directly led the ninja troops and rushed to the border. Ruxianchan and the others were among them. They had just moved yesterday when someone notified them to go to the battlefield. Although it felt a little wrong, Ruxianchan didn't care. Anyway, even if he was not allowed to go to the battlefield, he also went to the battlefield to see. After all, Tsunade was still on the battlefield. He was worried. When going to the battlefield this time, Ruxianchan brought Xiaonan with him, and left Xiaonan in Konoha. To be honest, Ruxianchan was not at ease at all. If something happened to Xiaonan, it would be too late for him to regret it, and Ruxianchan took Xiaonan with 100% confidence to protect her, and it would not affect his battle. Why did you suddenly let us go to the battlefield? But it's okay, I just miss Sister Tsunade, and I don't know what happened to Sister Tsunade, Mikoto said softly, her face a little worried. Don't worry. Although Tsunade is quasi-cage strength, his combat power is not weaker than that of cage rank, and even ordinary cage rank is not an opponent of Tsunade. Ruxianchan comforted Mikoto, and at the same time comforted himself. I really don't know what you are worried about. Big Sister Tsunade is so strong, she will be fine. Don't worry about it. And we will see Big Sister Tsunade soon. Kushina noticed that the atmosphere was a bit wrong and said, Road. Xiaonan, who was held by Ruxianchan in his arms, also nodded sharply. Looking at Xiaonan, who is cute in his arms, Ruxianchan laughed. After walking for half a day, they started to camp and rest. Although they could reach the battlefield quickly by rushing with all their strength, even if they reached the battlefield, they would have no combat effectiveness. So rest is certain. While resting, Ruxianchan accidentally saw the Nawaki. Nawaki, why are you here? I also want to ask you, why are you here? And you are still with Xiaonan? Do you think the battlefield is a tourist? Shengsha looked at the cute Xiaonan and said speechlessly, There's no way. I'm not worried about leaving Xiaonan in Konoha. It's better to take Xiaonan, Ruxianchan said with a smile. You haven't said that you have to go to the battlefield. With your strength, you can only be cannon fodder when you go to the battlefield. Although Ruxianchan's words are not good, it is a fact. Roshu's strength is at best a Chunin, or a Chunin with the worst combat experience. I came with our Kaienzu clan, Shengsha pointed out. Following Shengshu's fingers, Ruxianchan looked at the Kaienzu clan, and was speechless at this look. I saw 40 or 50 ninjas. Almost all of them were old, weak and sick. The strongest one was an elite Jounin, and he was still an elite Jounin who was old and had little fighting power. This thousand-handed family is too pitiful. Or was it the largest clan in the ninja world during the Warring States period that once overwhelmed Uchiha? It's not that Ruxianchan looked down on the Kaienzu family and went to the battlefield like this. Isn't that going to die? Perhaps Konoha just wanted the Kaienzu clan to die, and the light flashed in Rick Xianchen's mind. At the beginning of the plot, the Kaienzu 253 clan has completely become history. If there is no accident in a clan, how could the clan be wiped out? The Thousand Hands clan will appear here, and Ch-Force cannot get rid of Shimura Danzo and Sarutobi Hazun. Could it be that this guy Danzo has already started to study the cells of the first generation, and wants to get the corpse of the Kaienzu clan? Otherwise there is no reason to take action against the old, weak, sick and disabled of the Kaienzu clan. Of course, this is just Rick Xianchen's guess, and Rick Xianchen doesn't know whether it is true or not. Shengshu, it's not that I look down on you, it's better for you to go back to the village now. The battlefield is not a joke, there will always be someone lying there forever. Rick Xianchen said solemnly. You can go, even Xionan can go, why can't I? I have to train myself on the battlefield and work hard towards Hokage's position. Shengshu couldn't listen to Rick Xianchen's persuasion. Hokage is so important. Don't you think about your family? Don't you think about your sister Tsunade? You don't understand my dreams at all. Yes, I don't understand your dream, but you can only live to realize your dream. If you die on the battlefield, a few people will remember you. If it wasn't for Tsunade's sadness, I wouldn't be too lazy to persuade you. The current stubbornness of Shengshu makes Rick Xianchen feel very angry. Chapter 82 The Stubborn Nawaki. Shengshu, stop arguing, Mikoto persuaded. Mikoto, you don't need to persuade. Xianchen waved to stop Mikoto, who wanted to say something. I don't know why you are so obsessed with the position of Hokage, but I tell you, dreams are dreams, and reality is reality. Don't talk about dreams all day long, it's useless at all. If you really die on the battlefield, no one will shed a tear for you except your sister. Rick Xianchen said coldly. He is the kind of person who takes his own people very seriously, and is extremely selfish to others, so he neither understands nor resents someone like Ropesha who ignores his relatives for the sake of his dreams. I want to protect the village left by Grandpa. This is the most important treasure left by Grandpa. You can't understand me at all. Hey Tilda, I'm not you, so naturally I can't understand you. But you can't even protect your own clan, you still want to protect others. Look at their appearance. Can you come back when you go to the battlefield? You don't care if you Kaienzu clan cut off your inheritance? Do you think you are qualified as a young patriarch? Rick Xianchen pointed at the Kaienzu clan and sneered. Asked. I just want to protect the whole village. Whether it's the Kaienzu clan or the other villagers in Konoha, they are all members of the village and my guardians. At first, Roshu was a little hesitant, but he became more and more determined. Hearing Nawaki's words, Rick Xianchen smiled. Shengshu, you are the one who has great love. I am a selfish person. We are two kinds of people. I am too naive to convince me. As Nawaki said, Rick Xianchen really couldn't understand him. Nawaki's behavior is stupid in Rick Xianchen's eyes, but in the eyes of others it may be selfless and worthy of respect. As long as you don't regret your choice today, I can't convince you. Do whatever you want. Rick Xianchen waved his hand, not wanting to talk to Shengshu anymore. The thoughts of the two people are obviously walking in opposite directions, and it is futile to continue. After Shengshu left, Rick Xianchen looked at Mikoto, Kushina, and Xionan, and asked softly, do you think I am too selfish? I won't think you're selfish, because you are. Kushina complained. When Rick Xianchen heard this, his face suddenly collapsed. Just kidding. You're just being selfish to others, not to yourself. If you were really a selfless person and always thought of others, I would be jealous. Duke Sinai said with a smile. As long as Rick Xianchen treats her well, it's enough. If Rick Xianchen hangs up with others all day, it's no wonder she doesn't go crazy. Actually, everyone has this kind of selfishness, and for us, Chen, you are not selfish. Mikoto smiled slightly. Brother Chen is the best person in the world, how can you be selfish? Xiaonan said. While blinking his orange eyes, Rick Xianchen laughed, and the anger he made because of the Nawaki went away. Actually, Shengshu is right. He just values his dreams too much and cares too much about the village. Don't blame him, Chen. Mikoto persuaded her. Actually, I don't blame him, I just don't like it. Maybe it's because our two ideas are different. Rick Xianchen shook his head and said, he didn't think that it was wrong for Shengshu to pursue his dreams, nor did he think that it was wrong for Shengshu to protect the village, but he just couldn't bear that he put these in the first place and put his family members aside. More importantly, Shengshu knew that he was weak and still insisted on going to the battlefield. If he wants to go back now, even Hiruzen Sarutobi can't say anything, but for what dream, he has to go to the battlefield. I really think the battlefield is an amusement park. Even if you want to become Hokage, you don't need to go to the battlefield. Rick Xianchen really doesn't understand Nawaki's brain circuit. In fact, Xianchen didn't know, as early as before, Sarutobi Hizen had talked to Nawaki, what Hokage is to guard the village, protect the villagers, and get the recognition of the villagers. I'm optimistic about the Nawaki again, thinking that the Nawaki can become a Hokage. In short, he poured a few bowls of chicken soup into Shengshu, and he couldn't find. After resting for a while, the main force continued to advance. and it took several days to reach the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rain. Sarutobi Hizen personally went into battle, and also gave the Konoha ninja a booster, which made them show their fighting spirit again. Hatake Tsukumo brought Sen in to greet him. Sister Tsunade, this way. Kushina waved at Tsunade. Tsunade looked at Rick Xiangchen and the others, frowning. Why did you come to the battlefield? Tsunade came over and asked. If I say I'm here to help Konoha, do you believe it? Rick Xiangchen asked with a smile. Tsunade glanced at Rick Xiangchen, then shook his head. I don't believe it. What kind of person are you? I don't know. It's the enemy who hit Konoha's doorstep. You should just stand by and watch. I have such a bad impression in your eyes. Rick Xiangchen pouted angrily. Do you still think how impressed you are in my heart? Then you still don't like me. Rick Xiangchen said triumphantly. Tsunade blushed, and then said shyly, who likes you? I just saw that you were pitiful when you confessed, and I was afraid of hurting your fragile heart, so I agreed to be your girlfriend. Yes, that's it. Oh. Tsunade, are you arrogant? Rick Xiangchen smiled even more. Humphrey. Tsunade snorted lightly, then pointed to Xiaonan next to Rick Xiangchen and asked, who is this little girl? Xiaonan, I recognize my sister. Xiaonan quickly calls her sister. Hello, Sister Tsunade. Xiaonan shouted in a cute tone. Well, Xiaonan is good. Tsunade bent down and touched Xiaonan's head. Why did you bring Xiaonan to the battlefield? Tsunade said angrily. Don't talk about us first. Look over there. Rick Xiangchen reached out and pointed in the direction of the Nawaki and the Kaienzu clan. He has been paying attention to the Nawaki here, and after seeing Tsunade's eyes watching over, he hurriedly turned to hide. If his old sister knew that he was on the battlefield, he would be really miserable. But no matter how much Nawaki hid, he still didn't escape Tsunade's eyes. When he saw Nawaki, Tsunade was surprisingly angry. When Rick Xiangchen and the others went to the battlefield, although Tsunade felt a little blame in her heart, she did not get angry, because she knew that the three of them were strong. Even when she comes to the battlefield, self-protection is definitely more than enough, but what strength does her brother Shengsha have? Is she still unclear as her sister? Is this going to the battlefield to be cannon fodder? Tsunade became even more angry when he saw that the Kaienzu clan had actually come, and walked over there angrily. Chapter 83 Tsunade Fury. Sister. Knowing that he couldn't escape, Shengshu scratched his head and shouted with a smirk. Tsunade had a sneer on his face. Don't call me sister, I can't afford it. Princess Tsunade, the only elite of the Kaienzu clan, Joinin Chiutada, greeted Tsunade. Why don't you tell me before you come to the battlefield? Do you still have me in your eyes? Tsunade said angrily. We also want to tell Princess Tsunade, but time doesn't allow it. Shizda said bitterly. Calm down the anger in his heart. Tsunade said, now Konoha is in danger. It is right for our Kaienzu family to contribute to Konoha, but why did you bring the young genin of the Kaienzu family to the battlefield? You don't know the cruelty of the battlefield. This is what makes Tsunade the most angry, and this method is not used to contribute to Konoha. The cruel Tsunade who has just experienced the war understands that with the strength of the Kaienzu clan, he can't even make a bubble on the battlefield. Princess Tsunade, I have also experienced wars before, and naturally I know the cruelty of the battlefield, but this is Hokage's order. What can I do? Kionti-tan said helplessly. He also didn't want to take the Kaienzu clan to the battlefield, how the First Ninja World War Kaienzu declined, and now he still vividly remembers 423. Tsunade's expression turned gloomy. I'm going to find the 3-generation-old man. Tsunade rushed to find the theory of the 3-generation-old man, and even sent out the genin of the Kaienzu clan. Do you want to make the Kaienzu clan exterminate? Tsunade felt a chill. 3 generations old man, I need an explanation. Tsunade said gloomily. Sarutobi Hizen's heart skipped a beat, knowing that his trouble was coming. Why is my Kaienzu clan and the whole clan appearing on the battlefield? Do you use our thousand-hand clan as cannon fodder? Tsunade roared angrily, attracting the attention of countless people. Tsunade, I'll give you an explanation about this later, but the most important thing right now is the union of the 3 kingdoms of rain, earth, and wind. No way. Sarutobi Hizen could only use the trick of dragging words. Ha ha tilde, do you think of me as a fool? Tsunade sneered. Tsunade, in fact, the teacher should have his own difficulties. Everything he does is to better protect Konoha. What can I say in private? There are still so many people here. Don't let the teacher come down from the stage. Jiraiya persuaded. It's none of your business here. Leave me alone. This matter must be made clear. In this Konoha crisis, as the first Konoha clan, shouldn't the Kaienzu clan take the lead? They only want to save their own clansmen and ignore the village. You are too selfish, Tsunade. Danzo said expressionlessly. Ha ha tilde. Tsunade gave a bleak smile and asked Sarutobi Hizen, 3 generations, is that what you mean too? Sarutobi Hizen didn't speak, but when he heard that Tsunade didn't even call the old man, he directly called him the 3rd generation, and he knew that Tsunade was really angry. Seeing that Sarutobi Hizen didn't speak, Tsunade continued, Is the current Senju family worthy of the Konoha #1 family? I remember that when Grandma Mito was alive, she once asked you to take care of the Senju family. You are take care of it like that? Alas, Tsunade, everything is about the overall situation. I will give you an explanation in the future. Explain. Will there be a 1,000-hand clan in the future? Tsunade said sarcastically. Tsunade, you have to be considerate of the teacher. He is not easy. Shut up, Jiraiya. It didn't happen to you. What do you know? Tsunade glared at him fiercely. When Jiraiya wanted to say something, Orochimaru, who was next to him, quickly reached out and grabbed him, preventing him from continuing to mix. You want to let the Kaienzu clan contribute? I have no opinion. Let those Xiren and Shengshu go back, and the rest of the Kaienzu clan stay. No, absolutely not. As soon as Tsunade finished speaking, Danzo jumped out. What's the matter with you here? Tsunade's icy gaze swept over, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Sarutobi, this is the good disciple you taught, and even Hokage's assistant dares to contradict. Danzo said strangely. That's why the ugly people in the legend are making trouble. Xianchen's voice was not too small, just enough to be heard by the people around him. The surrounding ninjas all turned their heads to look at Xianchen to see who it was, who was so bold, dared to contradict the darkness of Konoha. Who are you, even a little stubborn, dared to insult me? And take him down for me. Anzang was furious. TSK. It turns out to be quite self-aware. I haven't given a name yet. You just figured it out yourself. Xianchen said with a smile. When the surrounding ninjas heard it, they wanted to laugh but didn't dare to laugh. Their faces flushed red. Why are you still standing there? Take him down for me. Danzo roared angrily. Who would dare? Tsunade said coldly, and a huge chakra made the surrounding ninjas feel suffocated. This is the end of the matter. Now that the enemy is in front of us, we are still fighting. What is this? Hizen Sarutobi pulled the angry Danzo and said, wait, where do I want to explain? Tsunade said with a cold expression. Okay Tsunade, let's go. Everyone has made it clear that they want you to die. No matter how much you say, it's useless. Let's go. Xianchen took Tsunade's hand and left. Sarutobi Hizen's expression was extremely ugly. You saw Sarutobi, thinking so radically at a young age. Such a person must not stay. Danzo took the opportunity to say, ha tilde. Speaking of extreme thinking, there is no one like you Danzo. Xianchen looked back at Danzo, then pulled Tsunade and turned to leave. Alas. After sighing, Sarutobi Hizen said, don't look at it. Go to your post, and be alert to the enemy ninja's sneak attack at any time. Danzo, what's the matter with you? Looking at Danzo with dull eyes and incomparably dazed, Hizen Sarutobi felt a little bad. Teacher Sarutobi, he seems to have fallen into illusion. Orochimaru reminded faintly. What? Sarutobi Hizen immediately sent chakra to Danzo, disrupting the flow of his chakra, but it had no effect at all. Orochimaru's eyes flickered with light, and he said softly, Teacher Sarubai can try to use pain stimulation to achieve the effect of breaking the illusion. Sarutobi Hizen hesitated for a moment, then took out kunai and stabbed Danzo's arm. But Danzo was still stunned and didn't react at all, as if it wasn't him who was stabbed. Sarutobi Hizen looked at Orochimaru. It's useless to look at me. Everything I learn is still taught by you. Whether it's disrupting the flow of chakra, or the pain of the body can't be solved. This is definitely the strongest illusion I've ever seen. I can only find it. I have no choice but to perform the spell. Orochimaru spread his hands and said, who that performed the illusion? Could it be him? Sarutobi Hizen thought of Xianchen, because Danzo was only in the illusion because Xianchen looked back at him. Although I can't believe it, Xianchen's suspicion is the biggest. Chapter 84. The three generations who are about to be pissed to death. It can make shadow-level powerhouses fall into illusion, but it is still impossible to crack. This illusion is really too strong. Orochimaru licked his tongue, and his eyes showed a touch of heat. At this time, Orochimaru, although he has not yet embarked on the road of technology, his pursuit of ninjutsu has reached the point of fanaticism. It must be that Xianchen Fang's illusion. I'll go find him. Sarutobi Hizen's face was cold and serious. Don't talk about his relationship with Danzo, just talk about Danzo's importance to Konoha now. And Sarutobi Hizen will also go to Xianchen and let him unlock Danzo's illusion. Ha tilde. Mr. Sarutobi has evidence? Orochimaru said with a chuckle. I've seen that kid Xianchen before. Although what he said today is a bit too much, it shouldn't be him. He's only 10 years old. How could Danzo fall into illusions? Zilai shook his head and said, don't compare genius to you idiot. Orochimaru, what do you mean? Orochimaru glanced at Jiraiya with contempt, and then said in a cold voice, idiot. Whether it is or not, I'm going to talk to him. After glancing at Orochimaru, Sarutobi Hizen said, ha. Danzo, who was originally motionless, suddenly burst into laughter, then raised his right hand, digging out his right eye extremely fiercely, and pinching it with one hand. You monster, finally died. Ha. Danzo shouted frantically. Sarutobi Hizen looked at Danzo in disbelief. Anyone who didn't know it would think Danzo was crazy. After digging out his right eye, Danzo also woke up, feeling the pain in his right eye and couldn't help screaming. "Danzo, are you alright?" Sarutobi Hizen came over and asked with great concern. What's the matter with me? Am I not dueling a monster?" Danzo screamed while covering his eyes. "Danzo, you fell into illusion before." "Illusion?" Danzo was stunned. "Is it an illusion?" Anzang fell to the ground with a smile. The blood on his face matched his smile, making it so gloomy that it could scare a child to death. "Danzo, hurry up and notify the medical team," Sarutobi Hizen shouted. Later, Danzo was carried away by the medical ninja of the medical class. After the diagnosis, in addition to the physical injuries, the most important thing was the mental injury. As for how long it will take to recover, the medical ninja couldn't give an answer, making Hiruzen Sarutobi grit his teeth. "I'll go to Tsunade for treatment." Sarutobi Hizen angrily went to Tsunade. "When I came to Tsunade's tent, I found that there was no one at all. After I asked the guarded ninja, I realized that I went to the place where the Kaienzu clan stayed." Sarutobi Hizen ran to the foothold of the Senju clan again. When Sarutobi Hizen came, Tsunade was still reprimanding the Nawaki. "Sister, Hokage-sama is here." Tsunade glanced at it, and then pretended not to have seen it, and continued to reprimand the Nawaki, so that the Nawaki, who thought he had escaped the catastrophe, was forced down again. Sarutobi Hizen glanced at Tsunade, then turned to look at Haixiangchen, and asked with a cold expression, "Haixiangchen, did you hide the illusion of the Hokage auxiliary group? Do you know how sinful it is?" Hokage is different. Come up and ask me the guilt. So do you have any evidence, Hokage-sama?" Xiangchen, who was playing with Xionan, raised his head and said with a smile. Sarutobi Hizen's anger rose in his heart. Looking at Xiangchen's posture, he clearly did not take his Hokage in his eyes. In fact, Xiangchen did not take Sarutobi Hizen in his eyes. "Everything requires evidence." "Can you show evidence?" "Even if you are Hokage, you can't just falsely accuse a good person." "This hurts my little heart very much," Xiangchen said with an exaggerated expression while covering his heart. "Angry. Angry. Angry." Except for the angry words, there is no way to describe Sarutobi Hizen's mood. Tsunade glanced at Xiangchen, and then showed a sweet smile. Xiangchen was venting his anger for her. 3 generations of Hokage, Chen is only 10 years old now. Can Shimura Danzo be able to do illusions? "If you want to frame my disciple, you have to find a better excuse." Tsunade folded his arms and said jokingly. Hiruzen Sarutobi cracked his fists. Is Hokage trying to hit me? I'm really scared." Tsunade asks for a hug. Xiangchen threw himself into Tsunade's arms and rubbed his face against Tsunade's dupai. Tsunade's face turned red, but he didn't expect Xiangchen to actually eat her tofu. "Xiangchen, is this your attitude towards Hokage?" Sarutobi Hizen roared furiously. Tilda then. "What do you think of my attitude? Do you treat you with respect?" "That's my attitude. If you don't like me, then come and beat me." Xiangchen had a beating expression on his face. PFFT, Mikoto, Kushina and the others couldn't help laughing, and even Nawaki, who had always been a wooden man, couldn't help laughing. Sarutobi Hizen's face was distorted. It was the first time he was so furious, but he couldn't do anything to Xiangchen. Otherwise, the entire ninja world will flow out, and the news that he was bullying children by Sarutobi Hizen will be completely disgraced by then. He took a deep look at Xiangchen, and then Sarutobi Hizen turned his head to look at Tsunade. Tuanzang is seriously injured, and his spirit is on the verge of collapse. He needs your treatment. Now is not the time to act with anger. "Oh. I just came to the battlefield, and it's already dead." "It's really a waste. You can't treat this kind of person." Tsunade. Xiangchen. Sarutobi Rizao roared loudly. "Be quiet, I'm not deaf. What are you doing with such a loud voice? Are you trying to scare me?" "I've heard that the current Hokage is not a good thing, and now it seems that it is true, so I know to scare children." Xiangchen took it out. He said with his ears out. "I'm a little tired because of the constant fighting these days, and Danzo doesn't have any major issues, so don't come to me." Tsunade declined lightly. "Danzo is already in a coma, and I don't know when he will wake up. Now is the time of the war in the ninja world. Danzo's role is indispensable." "Tsunade, don't be impatient." Sarutobi Hizen persuaded. "Isn't this not dead yet? It's not a big deal if you don't die. This group is still the assistant of Hokage. It's really delicate. I don't think you should be a ninja anymore. Go home and raise pigs." Xiangchen interjected again. Seeing Xiangchen who interrupted again, Sarutobi Hizen was so angry. If it wasn't for his identity, Sarutobi Hibiki would have the heart to beat him to death. Without Danzo's help, Konoha would be in danger, and you don't want Konoha established by the first Hokage to be destroyed. Sarutobi Hibiki's Aunt Xiaozi reasoned with emotion and wanted to convince Tsunade. However, Xiangchen made trouble here, and Sarutobi Hizen persuaded a fart, but he did not persuade Tsunade, but made him angry. Now Sarutobi Hizen sees Xiangchen, his teeth are itchy, and his body is shaking with anger. Chapter 85 Disappointed Tsunade. "Tsunade, don't you care about the village at all?" Tsunade hesitated for a moment, then said, "I take care of the village, but who will take care of our Kaienzu family? Konoha was established by grandfather. I want to protect it. I just protect it, but I don't want to protect it." who has the right to say anything, as the granddaughter of the first generation. How can you say such a thing? Sarutobi Hisn said angrily. I also wanted to protect Konoha well before, but you guys disappointed me too much. After this incident, I also figured it out. It's not that you contribute to the village will think of you, and I don't need to bear this burden. A heavy burden. As for Grandpa, I can only say sorry to him. Tsunade's tone was relaxed, but his eyes were very firm. Then Tsunade's face became solemn, and then he said, I, Kaienzu Tsunade, represent the Kaienzu family, and completely quit Konoha. Sarutobi Hisn looked at Tsunade in disbelief. He didn't expect that the trouble would be so big, that it would rise to the point where the Kaienzu clan quit Konoha. The Kaienzu family is indeed lonely, but the prestige of the Kaienzu family is absolutely terrifying. Whether it is among those big families or among the commoners, the prestige of the Kaienzu family is irreplaceable. This is also the reason why Danzo proposed to let the Sanju clan go to the battlefield, and Hiruzen Sarutobi did not object much, because the unparalleled prestige of the Sanju clan had already overwhelmed his Hokage. If the Kaienzu clan withdraws from Konoha, then Konoha's heart may be scattered. Sister, I don't agree with this matter. Nawaki, who had not spoken, stood up. Shut up Roshu, there is no reason for you to speak here. Tsunade glared at Roshu. I don't agree with the Kaienzu clan's withdrawal from Konoha. I am the young patriarch of the Kaienzu clan, Shengshu said stubbornly. The Kaienzu clansmen on the side were also extremely embarrassed, and they never thought of quitting Konoha. What's your choice? Tsunade glanced at Nawaki in disappointment, and then looked at the members of the Kaienzu clan. The people of the Kaienzu family were a little confused and didn't know what to do. In the end, Chitara stood up. Princess Tsunade, Konoha is the hard work of our Kaienzu family after all, and we don't want to leave Konoha. Tsunade heard the words and shook his head even more disappointed. Sarutobi was suddenly relieved. Now Konoha is already very difficult. If the Kaienzu clan withdraws from Konoha, it will hit Konoha's momentum even more. Maybe Konoha is really over. Although Rixianchan was shocked by Tsunade's decision, when Tsunade asked that sentence, Rixianchan knew the answer. Because there has been an example before, and it is even more miserable than Tsunade, that is Madara Uchiha. The Kaienzu clan, who were used to staying in Konoha, would not even think about leaving Konoha. Tsunade, what you said just now was too arbitrary. Sarutobi Hisn snapped. It is forgivable to do evil in the sky, but it is impossible to live by doing it yourself. Shengshu, the path is chosen by yourself. You have to do it yourself. Rixianchan walked over and patted Shengshu on the shoulder. 3 generations of Hokage. If I can let Konoha win this war easily, but it will take some price. I don't know if you are willing to pay. Rixianchan turned to look at the 3 generations. What price? Danzo's life. Is it very worthwhile to exchange Danzo's life for peace? Rixianchan had a smile on his face. Konoha will never use the people of the village in exchange for peace. Sarutobi Hisn said coldly, looking at Rixianchan with a very bad look. Don't say that. Sarutobi Hisn doesn't believe that Rixianchan has that ability, just believes that Rixianchan has this ability, and will not exchange Danzo's life for peace, a good friend for life. Oh, is that so? Rixianchan smiled and said nothing. The saying of Sarutobi Hisn is very nice, but Rixianchan scoffs at it. The atmosphere in the field fell into silence. Sister, don't be so unfeeling, okay? Konoha is Grandpa's whole life effort. You can't just watch it destroy. Shengshu looked at Tsunade and said, Hey, I will do my best in this war. After the war is over, I will leave Konoha completely. Tsunade sighed and said, she couldn't really let go of Konoha after all. Tsunade was really hurt by the choice of Shengshu and the Kaienzu clan. Everything she did was for Kaienzu. The Kaienzu clan really couldn't stand the toss, so leaving Konoha now might not be a bad thing. War is a ferocious beast. At the beginning, the Kaienzu family had more than 1,000 people, and the well-deserved #1 clan in the ninja world had all become third-rate families in the first ninja war. Now it is a 1,000-handed family of a third-rate family. Can they survive World War II? Tsunade, what about Danzo? Tilda. Chen, let's go. I haven't seen you for a long time. Let me see if your strength is wasted. Tsunade greeted Rixianchan and the others to leave, without giving any face to Sarutobi. Sarutobi Hisn's face was stiff, and at the same time he was dissatisfied with Tsunade. He put his face down to beg her, and he didn't even give any face. No one was invited this time, and I was so angry that even the interior of Konoha almost fell apart, making Hisn Sarutobi very angry. Facing the Nawaki with a reluctant smile, Sarutobi Hisn again comforted the Sanju clansmen, and then arranged them in the logistics department, so that Tsunade could put out the fire for the time being. Otherwise, if Tsunade quits, their Konoha will lose a top combat power, and Konoha's situation will be even more difficult. Everyone has their own aspirations. They have their own ideas and their own pursuits. Everyone has to walk their own way. At most, others can only help a little, so there is no need to be too sad. Rixianchan comforted Tsunade, who was emotionally depressed. He knew that Tsunade was very embarrassed, with his family on one side and the village on the other. Why send our Kaienzu clan to the battlefield? Tsunade said, slightly confused. The wood is beautiful in the forest, and the wind will destroy it. The reputation of your Kaienzu family is too loud. Xianchen shook his head and said, Sister Tsunade, don't talk about these unhappy things. How are you doing on the battlefield? Will it be exciting and fun? Kushina asked with bright eyes. After Tsunade heard this, he was angry and laughed in his heart, and reached out to tap Kushina's forehead. You really treat the battlefield as a playground. People are dead here at any time. Don't be afraid to pee your pants when you get to the battlefield. Sister Tsunade, do you know how to talk? Why are you scared to pee your pants? If I swirl Kushina with a punch, the other party will be beaten into scum, Kushina said confidently. Tsunade's expression became serious, and he said solemnly, although you are indeed powerful, Kushina, you must be careful on the battlefield. Even the elite Jounin has fallen a lot. Don't take the battlefield as a joke. Don't worry. I'm measured, and now my strength is not the same as before. Just take what Chen said and call it Shibi for 3 days, and look at it with admiration. Kushina has been completely proficient in rockberry fruit. The elementalization of rockberry fruit, unless the enemy uses the sea-like water escape, or he can't help Kushina at all. And to use the water escape equivalent to the sea, who can do it? So as long as the chakra and physical strength are not exhausted, Kushina is almost invincible. Only yin and yang escapes can capture the entity of the natural devil fruit. Xianchen has experimented with this, and told Kushina to pay attention to it. However, there are not many people who can escape from yin and yang. In this day and age, if you throw away Otsutsuki Ua who doesn't know the specific situation, only Xianchen, Madara Uchiha and Kura can use yin-yang escape, and you don't have to worry too much. As for the immortal chakra with natural energy, Xianchen didn't know it. He had not cultivated into the immortal mode and could not do experiments. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.